Hey everybody, it's Rob, Frontline Mindset. I'm here today with a special guest. All my guests are special, but this one actually, we worked together way, way, way back in the day. I have Kim Kelly-Hahn, who's a emergency dispatcher at Putnam County 911. She's also a paramedic, so this is going to be a good, I think this is going to be a good episode here. Kim, thank you for coming on to Frontline Mindset with National Fire Radio. I appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
All right, so let's start with the early career and the journey, so to speak. How'd you get into EMS first and foremost? Because EMS came first before dispatching, right?
Yes, I was actually in Lake Carmel Fire Department's Explorer Post, and we were all assigned either one of the trucks, the engines to check, and then once I had was assigned to the ambulance, just for some reason I fell in love with it, and shortly after I was able to get my CFR and went from there.
Awesome. And did you do? Did you volunteer as a firefighter as well?
Yes, I was. I did that in a couple different departments, moved around, but then once I moved to Connecticut, I kind of they didn't accept any of my certifications, so that's when I gave it up.
Right, right. Okay. And then when did you take the step to become a dispatcher? Like when did that happen?
So originally, I was a dispatcher a long time ago. I would say at this point, it was 2000. I was about like 21 years old at the time, and my friend was like, "Hey, you should come be a dispatcher." And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "It's a really good job." So I took the test, and I ended up scoring well enough. I got on the job. I was there for a year and a half. I left there for other opportunities, and then eventually I found myself back there 9 years ago.
Okay, so back in 2000, started with Putnam County, right? Or 2000, and
Yeah,
then
Putnam number one. So yeah, you can make me do math. 2007. I was there from 2007 to the end of 2008, and then I went back in 2016. I came back.
okay, and
So
then you're also you're also a paramedic. Um,
yes.
so how did each role kind of shape your view of emergency services, especially when it comes to being a dispatcher?
When it comes to dispatching is a totally different animal because of the fact that you're literally only going by what you're hearing and the questions that you ask, whether or not you're going to get the accurate answers or not. And so a lot of people that are in the field, they show up to a call that's supposed to be like chest pain, difficulty breathing, and it ends up being like, like a stubbed toe or a rolled ankle. And how do dispatchers get to this? And they're idiots, they're this, they're that, until, you're actually sitting in that chair and you're the one answering the questions and you just know something's not right.
You just said something real, I think, pretty important. Until you're the one answering the questions, what's the process like when it comes to taking that 911 call for, especially on an EMS call? Because there's something called EMD that you guys are using, right? That's I don't know if that's still the term, but kind of
Yes.
walk us through that real quick because I think that's important for everyone to get the grip on.
And what people need to realize is that we have to ask the questions that we're asking. Immediately, like we're going to ask you your location. We're going to ask you either a cross street or something that would better identify where you are because, there's more than one lakeshore, or there's more than one main street. And even though it's a town, you want to make sure that you're getting the accurate information. We're going to ask you your full name and we're going to ask you your phone number because God forbid we get disconnected, then we at least have a way to call you back. We know who we were speaking to. And then from there, you can tell us what's going on. And like you said, it's either we do fire, EMS, or PD. And so whichever one, we do have a set of scripted questions that we're required to ask in a certain order in order to be able to get the best response out possible.
And you can only go off of what the caller is actually giving you.
Yes.
And that's sometimes. I mean, has there been a crazy time where it's been like, the caller's told you one thing and it's just been the complete opposite? Like not even just like you said, the chest pain to the rolled ankle. Like we're talking pancakes to like, you know, an upside down car. I don't know what the analogy would be there.
Well, like, an extinguished oven fire, and then the fire department gets there and half the kitchen is on fire instead of it being just in the oven and or extinguished. Um, it's just a lot of times we don't know the outcome. We just know, like, if I send a call that has both the EMTs and a paramedic and it sounds like it's really serious, and then all of a sudden the paramedic doesn't ride it into the hospital, you kind of want to wonder what actually was going on scene. Was it actually as bad as they said it was? Or a lot of people tend to make their complaints a little bit more serious because they think that we're going to get there faster,
Mm.
which is not the case.
Yeah, yeah. We can only that's the expedite button, right? Like we can only go so fast. So
Yes. And ETAs, we can't give them every time. Like, don't call 911 back and say, where are they? They're getting there. My line is that they're getting there as quickly but as safely as possible.
yeah. Um, so when you look back at the 20 years that you've done in emergency services, are there moments or calls that have had big impacts on you personally or professionally?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think you could last even a few months in emergency services without you carrying either some kind of baggage, whether or not it's good or it's bad. I've had multiple calls as a paramedic where I've, made a big difference. And, then I've also seen some horrifying things as a dispatcher. Um, I think it's actually worse being a paramedic and then being a dispatcher because there's times that you want to crawl through the phone and you want to be able to actually help the problem. You actually like want to do the CPR or you want to help someone up off the ground that's like yelling and that's in pain. So having to be felt like held back. But yeah, there's definitely calls on both sides that they'll always stick with you.
I would imagine that's got to be it's one of the probably like there's got to be points where especially doing giving like instructions over the phone for folks, and especially medical emergencies, being a paramedic could be beneficial, but it's also got to be this double-edged sword because of the fact that like you could probably hear Strider over the phone if somebody's having that shortness of breath, and that they're or that CHF patient that's like
It's like, oh,
really
that's bad.
yeah, and you're just like, okay, we need Lasix, but I don't have that and I
That's
can't do it over the phone.
yeah. Again, it's also that like there's the medics that work in the county where I dispatch. They know my difference between if it's respiratory distress or if I say severe respiratory distress. Like that kind of gives them like the little like, oh, like this is not just, grandma's a little congested and can't breathe through her nose. This is something a little bit more serious.
And you're also that's one of the things you when you're working when you moonlight as a paramedic, you're working in the county sometimes that you also dispatch for. So
Yep. Sometimes I'm in the same building, just on the other side.
that's got to be wild. So is there how does that go between you on the radio as a paramedic versus you on the radio as a dispatcher?
Oh, the dispatchers love to haze me. They love to, all in good fun, but like they'll act like they don't hear me on the radio. Like I'll be like medic four. They're like last unit. I'm like, I know you heard me. You just you just want me to repeat myself. Or they joke that they want me to have to relocate to the other side of the county. They're like, yeah, we're gonna make you go central today. I'm like, I'm the last medic. If I go central, I'm literally the last medic standing out of 4 to 5 medics on shift.
Yeah.
So they're still determined. There's like a bet about who's gonna make me go central for the first time.
So for all the listeners that are out there, where Putnam County in New York, the best way to describe it that I've found, and I worked there early on in my career for Sloper, is there is a dissecting line that you just draw through the county of its 301 and the TSP essentially, right? And then
Yeah.
you have Route 9 that goes down, and then when they were making the roads, they gave children crayons and said, "Go crazy on this map." And if the road says something mountain road, you are literally going to be driving up a mountain. If it says creek, you will be next to a creek. If it says pond, like it is the most geographically named county that I've ever, and like it is, so there's no, and my point is there's no easy way to get from one location to the other. So when you're doing these relocates, you are in the vehicle. Like there's no fast way from getting from Garrison over to Brewster. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Yep. Try your best, but
How does that roll into being a dispatcher, knowing some of like the geographic constraints of it? Like, is that something that you've got to like manage when you're taking calls? Because I can imagine, you get people who it's close to New York City, so like they also have that whole what's around you, a tree, a stone wall, but
and all the hikers that come up that go to Breakneck and everything like that that end up being, well, I think we're off the trail, and you GPS them, and it's like, oh yeah, you're really off that trail. Can you tell me anything? Do you see? And same thing, trees, rocks. Um, or they'll be like, there's no mailboxes, there's no businesses, there's no other streets. I just know that I'm on this street. Or they'll
Right.
be like, let me pull up Google Maps. And that's like, people understand that at least our technology is a lot better than it used to be. Our technology, when I first started, even when I came back, our maps took anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute to actually pinpoint where you are. And even then, there was something called a confidence, which was a radius. So if it said you had a confidence of 36, then it was you were within 36 yards of that point. But sometimes you get confidences in the thousands, and that wouldn't help. So it's really important that people know where they are as well because technology will fail. Yes, Google Maps knows where you are, but that's because you give Google Maps permission. Technically, 911 doesn't always get permission from your phone to tell us where you are.
You just brought something up that I didn't think about. So starting in 2007, taking that hiatus, coming back in 2016
Hmm.
to now, how has technology changed in dispatch, especially when it comes to, I mean, you talk about that GPSing and that getting the confidence, but what other leaps have we seen in how we do business?
Okay, so there's this program called Rapid SOS that is so great at actually pinpointing the location. It will actually almost give us a warning before our phone even rings. It's like they get the information before we do. And it gives us not only that on the map, and it can actually tell us even how high up you are. So like if you're like the second, third floor of a building, and then through that, there's something called Prepared Live that connected with that we are able to do text to 911. And we can also, you can not only do texting, you can send photos, and then you can actually do something that's like a one-way FaceTime. Like you can allow us to watch through your camera. So if you're watching an incident go by, or like you can't talk, but you like, you put your camera on so we can see where you are. It's like a domestic incident, stuff like that. So all of those is like literally like a link that we send to the cell phone, and you're able to hit it, and we have access to see whatever you can see.
That's awesome. I didn't even know about Rapid SOS. I just figured it was like, that's the when I drop my phone and things have been in a car crash kind of thing. Um,
We get those a lot.
what what is that? Because I hear them being dispatched more and more frequently.
So it's crashed. Literally, it's exactly what it sounds like. It will literally will pick up the phone, and it will be the subscriber's phone number, either your cell phone number, or if it's your Apple Watch, if it's connected or has its own phone number. And it'll say like this person, the owner of this device has been involved in a crash or has fallen. And sometimes it'll allow us to talk through the device to try to get the attention of the person. And sometimes it'll just keep on loop recording and giving us like a latitude and a longitude, and we'll able like to pinpoint the device, and then so whether or not we can speak to them or not, then we disconnect and then we call them back. And then sometimes they're like, yeah, I got into a car accident, or sometimes we can't get back in touch with them, and we'll send a patrol in the area. The last couple ones that we've had where they didn't answer, it was because people put their phones on top of their car
Mm.
and then drove away, and then it fell off and it hit pretty hard.
Yeah,
And then they'll usually call back like, hey, I got a couple missed calls from this number. I'm like, yeah, it's 911. They're like, oh yeah, my phone was on the side of the road, sorry about that. I'm like, okay, as long as you're okay, then we're good.
yeah. I've got that's like the new version of a 911 hang up. So
Yes,
when
yes, that and the medical alert pendants that are GPSed, and those
mm.
don't seem to be GPSing very well.
um, I know in your bio you said you're certified as a training officer and a supervisor.
Hmm.
What lessons do you focus on when you're mentoring new people? Whether it's EMTs, medics, dispatchers, like the whole gamut. Because you've been doing this for a year and a day, as we like to
Yeah.
joke.
So when it comes to dispatching, it's give yourself grace, especially in Putnam County where we do all of the modalities. We're police, fire, and EMS. I think it's like 13 fire departments, 4 or 5 ambulance corps, and 6 police departments that we're handling. And we're handling all the cell 911 and landline 911s. Like down in Westchester County, the state police handle the cell calls. And depending on what town you're in, you could either get 60 control or a local police department. So when you get Putnam, there's so much to learn, and there's so many things that you have to remember, and what mutual aid and what this department likes and what this department likes and what tones you have to hit between 6 and 10. And so there's a lot. So all I say is just like give yourself some grace. It's going to take a while to learn. I still have questions. Like I said, combined 10 years of being behind the desk, I still like scratch my head, like, or have like brain farts. I'm like, wait, what am I supposed to do that one again? And we all help each other out. On the EMS side of things, I mentor more, like a lot more EMTs, and I try to build confidence in them so they're not as medic dependent
Mm,
as a lot of classes are doing airway breathing call a medic, and try to distill in them to have faith in their skills.
yeah, yeah. It is interesting to see that airway breathing call medic mentality, especially given the generation that you and I grew up in EMS, where that was like, you know, shunned as a joke. Like it was like, don't be this person, and now it's almost taught that way. Um, the
Oh yeah, if we called a medic back in the day, you needed a medic, and if they weren't needed, you got spoken to afterwards about why. But it was more of like a teaching moment. Especially like in Putnam, we have 5 medics during the day, and then we have 4 on the overnight, but that's for the entire county.
Right,
So it's like, yes, it goes out as trouble breathing. Like I said, we've had people, it's technically trouble breathing, yes, but that's because they're congested and they can't breathe out of their nose.
right,
But they want to go to the hospital anyway because they're not feeling well. You don't need a medic just because they said they can't breathe,
right,
or like they feel like they can't breathe because they can't breathe through their nose. So it's like using your clinical judgment and actually doing things. And plus you teach them how to do a 12 lead or spike a bag, and they're the happiest kids in the world.
right.
They like being able to help out.
Well, and that I think is something too, right? Like there's such a push in on the BLS level now. I mean, I know like where I work in Fairview, we're doing BLS 12 leads. We did the oh god, thank God I'm a deputy chief. Uh, the I don't want to say the oral airway, oh, eye gel. I knew it would come to me.
Okay. The
You know,
supraglottic airways.
yes, and so it's like there's like these skills that are like it's funny. We're turning over these skills to EMTs, but then at the same time, we got to break them of being medic dependent because they may or may not get that paramedic depending on where they are and what's going on.
Load and go. I'll meet you halfway.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to ask about was the incident tactical dispatcher. How did earning that certification change the way you approach large scale or high risk incidents or just dispatching in general?
It made me actually realize that Putnam County has prepared me or all of us for large scale incidents because of the fact that we do handle all the modalities.
Mm,
The people that I had the class with, a lot of them were just PD dispatchers or just fire and EMS. Like they don't realize everything that goes behind, like calling highway, calling, the electric company and stuff like that. So I did learn a lot. I'm not going to say that I didn't. I learned, that the skills that I've already developed, I honed them better. And I learned
right,
from other departments how they do things. That's one good thing, is that they didn't let more than one person from each agency be in a group.
right,
So you were with a group of 5, you were with 4 different agencies. So everybody got to share ideas, and you got to really see how interoperations will work. And I almost felt like I got thrown right into it. We had the large brush fire in Putnam Valley about a week or 2 ago. And I feel like I handled that situation better because of the training I got as an INTD.
What is the like? What's a summary of like the incident tactical dispatcher? What are you kind of, encompassing into that certification? Like, what's the course, you know, getting you at the end of it?
So pretty much and then we end up as trainees, and then we actually have to run incidents in order to actually be certified by the state and then actually put on the INTD call list, which means that we could technically be deployed anywhere in the state
Oh
and
wow,
work with any agency really that would need dispatchers. So like, part of our certification is having go bags that are both personal, like they make sure that you have like clothes for 3 days, at least 3 days, medications, as well as your technical bag, which will have everything that you would need to dispatch. Like for me, I know I'm a big whiteboard person. I like whiteboards, I like sticky notes, markers, like whatever you think, because you're going to be thrown into an area where you might not know a lot of things, but you might have to keep track of units and areas
yeah,
and maps and stuff like that. So it's pretty much preparing you to go into a situation, a large situation, blind, pretty much,
right.
and work with all the resources that are out there to help to just help each other out,
Yeah.
because sometimes like there was, I think it was after when Buffalo had the large snowstorm and everything like that, and they were pretty much shut down, that a couple of our dispatchers before this whole INTD was even more or less a thing, went up there and helped and went into their dispatch center and were doing the 911 hang up callbacks just because they were getting an influx of all of these calls and Buffalo couldn't handle it. So there was dispatchers from all across the state that went into Buffalo Center and helped them. So they each had like 8-hour shifts. They were just helping each other out, doing the backlog, helping with. So that was one of those situations where even before INTD, that this is how we do it, but now we're just more prepared.
Yeah. And then you talked about like this Putnam Valley brush fire that you got to utilize some of the skills. What was the crossover on that? Like, what was the fire? I mean, it's a brush fire, but like, kind of, can you go into a little bit about how it developed and what you pulled from the class and how it helped you manage that incident?
There was a lot of departments and there was a lot of shifting and moving around. And for me to take it, obviously we have our incident in CAD and we're going to have all of our units listed there and we can shift and move, but we had 3 different counties there, and whether or not they were in standby in somebody's quarters, if they were actually just on, and then they were running the calls, to be able to take the skills I learned in INTD, that like, okay, I know that I work well when it's out of the CAD and I can like write things down in front of me, and I can actually, I use magnets what has like people's things and just move them around.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it's easier for me if it's just right in front of me. I can just write, okay, so these are the people that are on the scene, and now this is who's in North Highlands standing by. And then this person, and like, okay, so then we have this county's battalion with us, but my main communication is with this battalion, and that incident, I think, just went over very well because we had very good command also there, and everybody knew their position. Everybody, used our battalion, which made my life easier because when they go through the battalion, even if there's 13 agencies on location, I'm only talking to one. I'm
Right.
talking to our battalion who is taking all those and all that on scene and just giving me what I need to know.
It's almost like you just described all that ICS stuff actually working.
Yeah.
You know, but on a large, and because like it's got like when you have out of county resources, there might, I know that I don't have a Putnam radio in my unit in Fairview, so like if I ended up in Putnam County, how am I going to communicate with with the Putnam County Bureau of Fire, like in EMS? I wouldn't know how to do that.
Well, if you're coming, then usually if someone, then you would have, I believe you guys have battalions as well in Dutchess County, don't you?
Yeah.
So you would have a battalion in order, and they would be, so like you said, like it's an ICS, and where you would talk to your battalion and your battalion would talk to our command or our battalion that's running it. So then they could be like, okay, yeah, tell your guy to go here. So then your battalion will tell you where to go.
Yeah.
So that's why we always send a battalion when one of our units goes out of county.
Gotcha. Um, the when you look at supervision in emergency services, what leadership traits do you think are crucial for being a supervisor?
Actually listening. I know that sounds so simple, but it's so simple and so complicated at the same time, because there seems to be times where either it's dispatching or an EMS that you could go to your supervisors or your upper management and just keep on saying like, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem, we need to mediate, we need to do something about it,
Yeah.
and then nothing gets done, and then all of a sudden the problem becomes a bigger problem, and then it does have to be addressed, and it takes so much to be like, I wanted to try to take care of this already, like we wanted to try to quash this. um I think that it's stereotypical management, like cut the crap with the favoritism, like treat everybody the same. If you're gonna write one person up for something, then the next person that does it has to be the same thing.
Right.
um Being able to know the policies and procedures, like just, and just know when to be a human. Like sometimes you have to step out of that manager role and just remember what it's like to be
Yeah.
lower and try to figure out like the pieces, and and also just knowing your staff beyond just the working level. So like, like they're having a bad day, but that's not usually like them. Like, hey, what's going on? Like, do you need to go outside for a few minutes? Like, do you need to go get a cup of coffee? Personable like I said, you have to be able to do both. Like, they always say that, parents are always your friends, but then when they need to be there, they're going to be your parent. Like, parents need to be parents, but they
Right.
can be your friends too. It's kind of like how supervisors should be. It's like they're still your parents and they still have to discipline you and tell you what to do, but they still have to love you at the end of the day.
Right. Did you? Oh shit! I just had it on my. Oh, yeah. What people on the radio, specifically command officers, whether it's somebody riding in the seat of an engine, or a chief. I guess it's more for the fire side and the EMS side, right? But like, because I don't know if the sergeants ever get on the radio from the PD side. I don't know what
They
they
do.
do. Okay, but like, what for supervisors out there that are like for chiefs and stuff like that? What is your pet peeve with them? Like, what do you need? Like, if you could take this platform today and be like, hey, stop screaming on the radio. I'm scared too, or like I don't know, whatever.
Shorten your transmissions. I do not need a dissertation. I understand that you have a lot to tell me, but at the same time, it's going to get a little bit better with our new radio system that we're actually starting tomorrow. Because right now we only have one response channel. We have the different towers, but it's only one response channel. But it's like if we have a lot of incidents going on,
Hmm.
and you're literally giving me, like I said, a one solid minute dissertation of, you're on this scene with this kind of structure and you operated with this many people and you do this line, but now you're breaking it down and now you're going to put these guys in service and these people are going to stay there. It's like, tell me just exactly what I need to know right now.
Mhm.
And then we can do things later. Or one of my biggest pet peeves is when we get an update from a chief or a police officer or whoever it was, and their update is literally what we dispatched them to. Like the information that we gave them at dispatch. It's just like, okay, you have a two-car motor vehicle accident. It's a blue Jetta and like a silver Ram and no injuries. And then someone will get up like, yeah, we're here with like, the Jetta and the Ram, the two-car accident, and there's no injuries. Thanks.
It's exactly what we dispatched you. Yeah, I've always wondered where that because I know it's like when I rode the seat, like that was, you know, like I always called out, like I'm on scene of a 2 car appears to be minor, like, and then I look in the CAD notes and it says minor accident, no injuries, property damage, like whatever, like it's but it's one of those things that somewhere like we gotta stop that cycle.
It just, or just like, like they say, like confirming no injuries. Like, okay, like if, like, I think that was probably a bad example, but I just know that there's times where I've just looked at the radio and I'm like, you literally are telling me what I dispatched you to. Or they're like, be advised. That's what I love. They'll say, be advised, and they'll give me the message that I dispatched to them. And it's like, no, I'm already advised. I was the one that advised you.
Right.
But no, you just have to say, received, and go on with your day.
Is there ever a good time to use be advised?
When I actually need to be advised of something.
Okay.
You can advise me of something that I'm not advised of, but do not advise me of something that I advised you first. So,
Um, I know that you do a lot of stuff in mental health advocacy. You've been a strong mental health advocate and supporter of Guardian Revival. What sparked your passion for mental health awareness in the first responder community?
knowing how messed up I was at one point,
Okay.
and kind of going back to where you said, like when we were joking around about having to call a medic and having to, like, you better have a good reason and you better, it's something that needs to be needed. Like, you can't show your weaknesses. And the fact is that it's getting so much better now, the fact that there is so much help out there, and it's not as much of a stigma. Like, you're still going to get the salty ones that, they're always fine and nothing's ever going to bother them, and they
Yeah.
just roll it off their back, or they drink it away, or whatever unhealthy coping mechanisms there are out there. But when I started opening up to people and talking, then I realized, like, we kind of all joke up that you have to be at least a little messed up in the head to be in the fields that we're in.
Right.
Like, there's no way that you're gonna walk away from this totally unscathed. You're gonna have, there's gonna be the screams that you're never gonna forget. You're gonna have like the night
Mm.
terrors, like revisiting calls, whether or not it's on the phone or in real life. And it's important to say, like, yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah.
So we finally got a little room at Putnam County that my supervisors put me in charge. We're going to call it the wellness room because we want it not only to be like a place to work out with some like gym equipment and stuff like that, but also have like, some comfy chairs, options for lighting, stuff like that. So in case anybody just needs just to chill out and needs more of like a Zen place instead of just walking outside or, the penitentiary hallways, you
Right.
know, you actually have a place just to go and scream. I mean, if you want to, sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah.
But my whole big thing is physical health has another like big impact on mental health. And unfortunately, especially in the dispatch world, it's very sedentary. People are sitting down for 8, 12, 16 hours, and that's not good physically or mentally for
Right.
anybody. So that's why like I walk a mile a day. Like I say, like you said, with Guardian Revival, they do their mile a day challenge in September. And it's like just walk a mile a day, whether or not it's treadmill, you're outside walking, whatever it is. And what I continue to do, because they say after 3 weeks, something actually becomes a habit. I have kept walking a mile no matter what, even if I'm just pacing my house because it's pouring outside. Or as people that see on my Instagram, I walk around work. So like I'm the example at work. Like I'm not just going to preach it, I'm going to do it. So once a shift, I get up, like I keep my headset on, and usually it's just within dispatch or in the neighboring room, and I walk for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Get up and walk around.
You said something before about like you had your own issues. What was the like? I'm trying to think of how to ask this. What was the hardest step for you in maybe making that first step to get help? Like, was there a barrier, whether it was actually there or something that you, I don't want to say imagined, but like, was just imaginary in the sense that like, you're like, I can't do this because of XYZ. Was there something that you overcame to get to that help that is,
When I realized that almost I didn't want to do EMS anymore, and then
okay.
I was losing interest in anything that did bring me joy. Because as much as a stigma as it was in emergency services to not ask for help, it's even worse being a female in emergency services, especially going back 15 years ago when we weren't as prevalent as we are now, because then, oh, then you're just being a girl.
Right.
You're just crying, you're whining, like whatever, you're just being a girl. And so, like, I had enough barriers that I had to break through and prove myself as a woman, both in the fire and EMS communities, that the last thing you wanted to do was been like, wow, that call really affected me. Like, I don't know, like I want to shake it off, and then just, you know, then using the girl excuse.
Yeah.
So it got to a point though where I could tell that I was on the decline, and it honestly was just, um, actually a mutual friend of ours that I just reached out to one day, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like I can't. It's like I have all these nightmares and things are recurring and everything like that. And he was the one that was always there for me and has always been a sounding board in case I just do have that shitty call. Like even if
Yeah.
there's nothing else more that you could do, or and if you did everything like that, we always say that we're fighting the Reaper, and guess what? The Reaper usually has a great advantage over us.
Right.
Or even just some of the crap we see.
Yeah. I always said too, like, there's a lot of people that hate the saying you're having a normal reaction to an abnormal situation because sometimes I think it doesn't have the follow up behind it. But I always tell everybody like my viewpoint is like if you ever saw like an old TV with the antenna and it's this image is coming in not clear, the minute that you're able to get that word out, like say like whatever it is, like even if you just said like, "Man, that call sucked because I didn't expect it to be a kid or whatever it is," like once you say it out loud, you take ownership of it, and the image just becomes clear, and then you can see it, and it's not that static that's kind of drifting around in your head, screwing things up. So it's yeah, it's good to have that. And on that note, what like in your experience, what are some of the biggest mental health challenges facing dispatchers right now, and even people in EMS as well?
For dispatchers, well, just going back, it's like I try to be the medic and the dispatcher that wasn't there for me.
Okay.
So like if there's a bad call, especially with some volleys, and I see that they're like off, I'll pull them to the side and be like, "Hey, I see you're off. Like, what's up? You want to talk about it?" And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Or like, does that always happen like that? Or sometimes you have to make that extra step and just kind of like giving people the door, because some people won't ask for help, but they'll take it if you offer it.
Yeah.
So. I think the main problem with mental health for dispatchers is the fact is that we're still classified as secretaries.
Yes. Talk about
And
that.
so that the fact is, and this is going to get a lot of slack. I do not consider myself the first responder. I don't think that we're a responder. I definitely think that we are in the emergency services area, you know, but I think us being labeled as first responders in the government eyes will open up a lot more doors for us when it comes to benefits, like mental health programs. Like even for me right now, trying to get simple exercise equipment for our wellness room. If we were a fire department, if we were an ambulance corps, if we were a police department, there are so many grants and things out there to be able to buy equipment and wellness things. And then the one thing that I did see that was offered for dispatchers, that's also like through our union and then through the state, it's apparently like a wellness grant, but you can't buy exercise equipment with it.
Hmm.
So it
I,
was very weird.
I want you to remind me when we're done about
Sure.
I have some friends who might be able to help us out with this. So don't let me forget that.
All right, I won't. So
So
I'm trying here. It's
yeah,
hard. It's rough trying to find like grants or even some money in the county. But when people look down on us on paper, we are secretaries. So they're like, well, what do you need that for? What do you need?
right.
What do you need mental health for? You're a secretary because we answer phones and we take messages, is literally what we're told.
And there's so much more to it than that. Um, if you could change one thing about the way the public safety agencies handle mental health, what would it be?
The availability. Like, there's been a lot of strides. And like, that's why I also promote Guardian so much as I do, is because they do things like Zoom. So then, even
Okay,
if a person wants to be comforted from afar and don't want to be known, if they want to do something anonymous, um, I think that there needs to be more like CISD teams. Like there needs to be more follow up. There needs to
right.
be, but unfortunately, like again, coming from a dispatcher's point of view, we're secretaries. We don't have those things available to us unless we actually go out of our way to either do it ourselves or try to find the right paths and to try to make the change ourselves to make us included into things like that.
Yeah. I know the Hudson Valley Critical Incident Stress Debriefing over in Sullivan County. That's one of the things we're always very good at is making sure the dispatchers, because they're the first, like they started it, is what I always say. Like you started it, but like really, like you didn't start the call, right? But like the person called 911, you picked up the phone and you got everything rolling. So like, why would you not be sitting in on this debriefing with us, and why would we not be following? That's a great point. And then I know we're what is how would you describe Guardian Revival and what they're doing? Because I think that it's a huge resource. I've heard their name come up so many times in the last month that even I'm kind of like, all right, what is this now? Like, 'cause I'm trying to find, so I kind of talk about Guardian, if you don't mind talking about
No,
Guardian Revival.
because like I said, I'm just more like I'm a participant. I don't want to seem like I'm actually a
Right.
part of them, but like I said, I do participate in a lot of like their, like I said, the mile challenge every year. I get a team together. So pretty much is that they focus on the mental health of veterans, first responders, and their families. Because a lot of times, like if you are married to or in a family of first responders or veterans, the family, some, I don't want to say suffers is not the right word for it, but they need support too sometimes to know how to support their loved one,
Right.
especially during rough times. So they have a lot of like hiking, kayaking, all sorts of actual like in-person activities that are all over the Hudson Valley, ones that are directed, and then meetups, whether or not they're online or in person. And sometimes they're called like under the umbrella, we're all guardians, whether or not first responders or the veterans.
Hmm.
And then, but they'll have specific things like just for veterans or just for first responders or just for like the females. And then they'll have things like for families, whether or not, like, and then they also do yoga, they do meditation online. They have the Boots for Paws program where they raise money for companion dogs. Because since, there's always that stigma before like emotional support dog or and stuff like that, where
Mm-hmm.
actually like a companion dog is a lot more accepted by the community and that can actually be such a great resource for people with like PTSD. and stuff like that. So that program is amazing.
Yeah,
Just all the dogs that they've been able to give to people.
one of my friends I think has a dog from Guardian Revival. It is a support dog, and it's been great for him. It's a good thing. So thank you for because I said there's recently there was somebody up in Dutchess who told me about some training they were doing. I got to find out about it because I want to. Um, oh, he's the first dog they ever awarded. That's interesting. Um, but anyway, there was some CISM training that they were going to offer, and I wanted to go sit in the class and see what they had because I mean, and plus mine training was from quite a while ago, so it wouldn't be bad to go through a different course and just see where we're at. But the fact that they were just simply offering that was pretty good. So on the dispatch side of things, we touched on mental health and dispatch. Is there anything that we're leaving out as far as like things that like you think that like what's something that the other side of the microphone does not understand about dispatch?
How traumatizing it is to hear things and
Okay.
not be able to do anything. Um, like there was one call that I will never forget. It was before we had anything like Rapid, and it was an open line of an active domestic that was getting in a car, and this girl was a rock star trying to give me information without giving me information. Like you could tell the phone was like probably in her lap. And this is back when our map would only refresh every 30, 45 seconds. And unfortunately, like all I could give the officers is that it's a vehicle and it's traveling in this direction on this main road that has occupied by one male, one female, and a male driver. That's literally all I could get them. But I almost got a thing, but I could hear this man arguing with her, hitting her, and we were actually like the state troopers were playing leapfrog, like pulling over every car, the sheriff's office, everybody got involved. And it wasn't until the sheriff or with the state trooper, like I heard, and the guy was like, "Why the F are we getting pulled over?" I'm like, "You got him, you got him." Like I was like so relieved. And then like when they pulled him out of the car and you can hear on the phone and she just said, "Thank you for staying with me." And then she hung up.
Yeah.
And like it even gets me like teary eyed to this point because like at that point I want to tell her like I never left you. Like I was here from you. Like I heard everything. And unfortunately that was a time in Putnam County where we only had two dispatchers on for the entire county at night. So even though like I needed to walk away, like I needed to like recover from that,
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't. I couldn't. Well, like I kind of like I stepped into like the room next door because God forbid two phone lines rang at the same time or my partner was dispatching something and another phone call came in. I needed to be not only present physically, but then also present mentally.
Right.
So, and
Yeah.
then you guys have to realize sometimes when we're short with you, it's not because we're being short with you. It's just because sometimes we don't get the chance to decompress.
Right. I think of that movie Bringing Out the Dead when they were just going like they were playing the radio dispatches and it's like going over and over again and they're just slamming units out like that it doesn't because there are times where it doesn't stop. There's just
No.
it keeps going and then you throw in a high stakes event like that and you really don't care that it was burnt food from cooking and the alarms like you just need to know that you're back in service. We'll go get the disposition later.
Back in service confirms, burn food. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah.
Short and sweet. Because
So
again, you also don't know what we're doing, especially like I said with our county and it like being split in half, that there's the west side units can't hear the east side units and the east side units can't hear the west side units. So they might think that we're not doing anything, but we're operating on the other side of the county, on different towers that they don't realize. So when they call like, "Hey, can I have my times for this call?" I'm like, "No."
right,
Call back in 5 minutes. And then they're like, "Why couldn't you give me times? It's not like you guys were doing anything." It's like, no, you think there's a car accident on the Taconic and everybody, their mother, their cousin, and their babysitter are calling to report it like they're the first ones.
right.
So we're a little busy right now.
Yeah. Um, when we look at life outside the uniform, you've done 30 cruises, 24 countries. What draws you to travel so much? And with that, do you have a favorite destination?
Oh man. I love to travel because who doesn't like to travel? Like honestly, when it comes down to it. My mom was the one that got us started with cruising and then they're just like, you get loyalty deals and all that good nonsense. And I love going, I love finding new places with cruising. I was actually able to go to three different countries in the Mediterranean. I went to Australia and went to the Southern Pacific Islands, like Fiji, New Caledonia, like places I didn't even know existed. I
Yeah.
was able to visit. Um, and you get to be able to go back. And ironically, probably one place that I would love to go back to, besides Ireland, because Ireland is spectacular, is actually Turkey. Turkey was
Okay.
absolutely beautiful, and the exchange rate for our dollar was spectacular. You could probably go over there with like $500 and live like a king for a week. Like, not even joking. It was
Yeah.
spectacular. But just I want to add more countries to my list. Like, I'm actually slowing down on cruises now, and I'm going to start doing more like land-based, actually just flying to a country and with my backpack and say, all right, let's go.
One of the things that I found about I like cruises. I haven't gone on one in a long time, and it's a shame. But that first responder side of me that can't ever shut off, I could at least shut it down to like 95% because everything's taken care of on the cruise. Like, I don't have to worry about where I'm sleeping that night. I don't have to worry about getting home safe, with the exception of making sure I'm back on the boat if it's in port. But because I want to heckle the people as they're running down the dock.
Yeah. The pier runners.
Yeah, but it's like that environment to me is like one of the less I'm at ease in that environment because like I don't have to worry about anything. I don't even have to decide what I'm eating for. I mean, I do have to decide what I'm, but there's food. Like I'm like, all right,
It's
like
like you don't have to go shopping. You don't have to prepare it. You just be like, yeah, I want that.
yes,
My famous saying is like, I'm off duty. Like if I see someone doing something stupid or someone like, I just kind of look over and everybody like will look at me. I'm like, I'm off duty.
yeah,
I'm off duty. But then, if you're actually like sober and like someone does fall in front of you or is bleeding or something, it's like, you know, I'm still a medic even when I go on a cruise.
yep,
And everybody knows that I carry a pharmacy with me. It's like, oh, you need Sudafed? Got it. Dayquil, NyQuil, you got tummy problems? I got it all, honey. What do you need? And I always have Band-Aids on me because that's, the thing that everybody needs the most.
yeah,
And so it's like, maybe you were able to change, like turn it off. Like in the back of my head, though, it's like it's not able to totally off. So maybe you're like
right,
95 off. I think I'm like 75 off.
right,
There's that
yeah.
25 that lingers around.
I was being generous with saying 95. It's probably 75. It's like it's enough to spin up the engines if we need to.
Yeah.
Do you think traveling helps you recharge or maintain a balance after the stresses of working in emergency services?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely, especially just getting away from everything. But you hear those sirens going by, and you gotta grab a little video and the Go Get 'Em Brothers, and and then you still kind of curious on what they're doing, but at the same time, you're like, you know what, this is really not my emergency this time. Like,
yeah.
have fun, be safe.
Go get
But
them.
yeah, yeah.
Well, when you take a look back at the 20 years that you've had in emergency services so far, what accomplishments are you most proud of?
Like I said, there's like the things like of that phone call with that girl that I was able to have a great system to work with and like having the police officers actually trust me and listen to me and work together and to do things. um the successful helping resuscitate a newborn baby that I got gotten a lifesaver award for. And then there's even the small moments that might not seem big to people, but like I had, a man I was able just to hold him up to be able to have one last conversation with his wife before he passed away in my arms, that he just felt that comfortable with me. And he's just like, I want to see her. I want to see her. I hopped right in bed with him, boosted him up and just held him, and he told his wife, I love you, thank you for making my life. And he's like, I'll see you on the other side. And he kind of just like wiggled into me, and then he was gone. And then just that being in emergency services, we are with people mostly during some of their worst days of their life. And then, when it comes like to the childbirths, and then there's also like happy events that we're there, we're welcomed into people's homes during these moments. And I don't think we need to take that for granted.
Yeah, I've always I just it's such a sacred space in those moments. Whatever the reason is, the fact that, like you said, we're invited into their homes. It's always yeah. If you could give advice to somebody starting their journey now in EMS or in dispatch, what would it be?
I would definitely joke with the new EMTs and stuff like that about how easy they have it with these stretchers and their gear. And like the stretchers, the stair chairs, I'm just like, I don't want to be like, back in my day kind of person, but wow, like you're spoiled. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy the fact that you don't have a stair chair that's literally a chair with handles and a drug box that's literally a tackle box that's used for fishing. That if that thing knocks over, you're done.
Yeah,
Um, but in all seriousness, EMS is definitely, I think, one of the best jobs in the world. It's definitely my passion. It's something that I love doing. I love being a dispatcher. It's pretty much stick with it and never stop learning. Everybody thinks like CMEs are pointless or like they're annoying and they are, but you end up learning the new things, or even if it's the same thing as a refresher, it's important. But this is why I wanted to, go to certified training officer class. This is why I wanted to go to the supervisor class. This is why I wanted to do INTD. And then now I want to take it a step further and do the COML course so then I can really be of assistance to running larger scale incidents as a paramedic going and trying to get critical care, my NRP, anything I could possibly do to make myself a better clinician. Never stop bettering yourself because you never know when you're going to have to rely on that training. Especially as a paramedic walking into a room, like people see you and they expect you to make things better.
right.
They see you, and then there's sometimes I'm looking at the situation and I'm looking for the adult, and I realize that I'm the adult, and I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
let's do this.
When did this happen?
So yeah, but yeah, there's still I've been a medic now a little over 13 years, and there's still times where I'm just like, oh crap, no, that's me. Like, thank goodness for medical control when I need it, but it's still scary that people look to me to fix things, and I try the best I can.
Yeah. Personally or professionally, what's next for you? Like, what are you excited about?
Wanting to take the COML, the communications leader,
Okay.
dispatcher course. It's like a step up from INTD. Like they're the people like on the ICS level. Pretty much the INTDs report to the COML. The COML is more or less like the battalion for dispatchers, which is good.
Right.
Professionally, like I said, I just trying to learn everything that I can, to try to make myself the best that I can be in the positions that I'm given and the responsibilities that are put upon me. So, like I said, the wellness room, I want to make it a badass room. I'm trying to get, suggestions from everybody. Like, what do you want in this room? What can I do to help you? And even just being in the center, like, how can I help you guys with either your mental health, your physical health? Like, let's try to really support each other. So that's just what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to, kickstart the wellness thing, keep up with my education, both with dispatching and medic. Whatever gets thrown at me, gets thrown at me.
We've been going for almost an hour. I got some rapid fire questions to kind of wrap things up here.
Okay.
So I love that eye roll that you just kind of gave. Um,
All right.
all right. So this one you already answered. I think favorite country you visited, Turkey.
Well, Ireland's my favorite
Oh,
country.
Ireland.
Turkey,
Ireland.
I'd
Yeah.
like to go back.
Okay. Dream cruise destination you haven't been to yet.
That's a hard one. Probably do another Mediterranean, but not. I did Greece, Turkey, and Italy, so maybe something that's more like France, Spain, that kind of deal.
Coffee or energy drink to survive a shift.
Coffee.
All right. Most stressful for you: a multi-patient MCI, a cardiac arrest, or missing a travel deal online.
What's the most stressful for me?
Yeah.
I don't think any of them. Probably missing the travel deal. MCI can deal with. Cardiac arrest, they can't get any worse.
Right.
So that's what was taught to me, and I actually kind of run with that. But yeah, no. I'd not say missing it. Like if I missed out on like a good travel deal, I'd probably be more upset about that.
One word to describe being a dispatcher.
Stressful.
One word to describe being a paramedic.
I'm trying to think of a different one. Um, like I hate to say, for me, it's fun.
That's fine.
Like,
There's no wrong answers here.
yeah.
And then if Siren, your cat, would describe you in one word, what do you think Siren would say?
Missing, because I'm always at work.
And then this last one it's a rapid fire question, but it's also if you could give your younger self one piece of advice before starting this career, what would it be?
Don't leave Putnam 911.
Awesome. Well, Kim, is there anything else you have that you want to, that we didn't touch on in our conversation today?
Nope, just support your dispatchers. Give us a little bit of grace sometimes. Like I said, you don't necessarily know what's going on, like you say, like behind the mic. We could have if you do have the opportunity, a lot of them you can do either tours or sit in to actually see what goes on the other side. Unfortunately, you guys are usually white clouds. So you'll
Yep.
come and sit in the room, and that's going to be like the 20, 30 minutes that the phone will barely even ring or it's not emergencies. Um, yeah, and just like I said, everybody look into Guardian Revival. Any of, even if you're far away, because a lot of things are, Zoom related and, get involved. And if it's something that you're passionate about, just always step in and help out your fellow man or woman
And where
who
can
need help.
people? Oh yeah, and where can people find you?
Find me,
Yeah, like
like
if they
as
wanted to
in,
reach out or something like that, like if they heard something that you said today and they want to follow up with like the wellness program that you're creating at work or something like that, Instagram, Facebook, or anything like that.
yeah, probably the best way would probably be, well, I'll give you, well, it's probably printed out. Like, well, on Facebook, I'm Kimberly Alana. And you can tell it's me because I'm in a pool, a nice turquoise pool with a drink in my hand. So that's me. And on Instagram, I am phlebotomedic. It's pretty much phlebotomist and medic put together because at the time I was a pediatric phlebotomist as well as a medic, so I was phlebotomedic. So either way, those are the best way to get in touch with me.
Awesome. And Kermit's coming to join us for the outro. So,
Oh,
uh, all right. Well, Kim, thank you for coming on Frontline Mindset with me doing this episode of Behind the Microphone. Kim Kelly-Hahn, everybody, check out some of the stuff that's going on with Guardian Revival. We thank you for being here on this episode of Frontline Mindset. And Kim, just hang out for a minute here after we stop recording. We'll see you guys in the next one. Be safe.
National Fire Radio.